Hey all, welcome to Slay the Spire. So today we're not playing another daily, but we are instead getting another achievement, Speed Climber. This achievement is to beat the game in under 20 minutes. As I said in the last video, this was recorded on early access, but it's still generally the same. There's a whole Slay the Spire speedrunning community. If you look at the records on speedrun.com, you can find a bunch of attempts. The ones I watched back in the day were Anti-Flame and Forgotten Arbiter, though I'm not sure whether they still hold records. The easiest way to get this achievement is to play as the Ironclad and go for a Whirlwind deck. That's not exactly what I did. I went for a Clash deck instead, which is somewhat inconsistent. I got Clash offered very early on, and it can sometimes be really good or sometimes be really horrible. I got lucky this time. So Clash is a 0 energy attack card, but it can only be played if the rest of the hand is also attack cards only. It deals 14 damage, which means it's pretty powerful, but you cannot have any skills, powers, or curses in the same hand, otherwise you can't play the Clash. More importantly, it means that you can't have statuses in your deck either, which makes some elites and bosses very hard to handle. I also got a Thunderclap very early on, which I upgraded, and then I also upgraded the Clash. And then I tried to remove the basic defense, since again with Clash we can only play it if we only have offensive cards. I did take a Rage for easy defense. In this sort of deck where you only have basically offensive cards, Rage would be great. It plays for 0 cost, and then other attack cards that you play will give you 3 if it's not upgraded, or 5 if it is upgraded defense. So this slime fight, I just threw a fire potion. I didn't want to deal with it. And then the first boss was the Hexaghost. Now, I realized after my first turn that the Hexaghost does put statuses into the deck, burn specifically, so I drank all the potions just in case. I did get lucky. I was able to deal a lot of damage before I reshuffled, since the Hexaghost puts the burns into the discard pile, so you have to reshuffle first to get to them. But I was able to deal a lot of damage here, and then at this point I can just kill him with regular strikes as well. So overall, I got somewhat lucky there. As the rare reward that we got offered, I took Offering, which is generally good. It draws a bunch of cards, 0 cost, and gives you extra energy. Now, we didn't get an energy relic at the end of that boss fight, so instead I took Astrolabe. Astrolabe transforms 3 cards and upgrades them. I decided to transform 1 Defend and 2 Strikes, and I got 1 Dual Cast out of it, and then a Heavy Blade and Uppercut. Now, the Heavy Blade and Uppercut are not really fit for this sort of deck, so I did end up removing them later. Dual Wield is great though, so I can dual wield the Clash, and that way I basically have 3 0-cost attack cards, especially since the Clash is upgraded. They can do a lot of damage, so that's what I did in most of the fights. I also did pick up a Whirlwind, which is pretty nice for AoE, since that's the one thing that the deck was still missing at this point. But yeah, so here we don't have great cards and relics just yet, but we did just pick up the Ornamental Fan. Now, Ornamental Fan is gain 4 block for every 3 attacks you play, which is great since we are struggling with defense and we have a lot of offensive cards. So at least dual wielding a Clash can give us at least 4 block, which is better than nothing. At the previous shop, I did get Pair, the relic that gives you extra max HP, and I removed the Uppercut, and then at the shop just now I removed the Heavy Blade, since again both cards are not really cards that I really want. And then yeah, the rest of the fights are basically very similar. I did have to get rid of all of the skills in my hand, so usually I play Offering, Rage, and then Dual Wield. Ideally I'll dual wield the Clash, and then I can usually kill fairly easily. Alright, and then next we had this Elite. That's actually, I think, one of the only combats that I was able to perfect. So there I got lucky with the draw, so I was able to Whirlwind them all, and then finished each of them individually off with a strike. At this point the deck was had only 13 cards in them, and then with Offering it was very easy to get Dual Wield and Clash together. And then I got, after the Slave Masters, I got the Ice Cream Relic, which is really nice. So Ice Cream allows us to save up our HP, or our energy actually, which means that in a turn where we dual wield the Clash and just play 0-cost Clashes, we can save up that energy for the next turn where we might have a very big Whirlwind, which is what I did in a couple occasions. Yeah, I should also say that during most of the events, I generally tried to gain more max HP since, again, we didn't have defense, so the sort of way we're trying to survive here is to just have a lot of max HP, a lot of buffer to be able to actually handle the attacks that we get. I believe I actually perfected this fight, since I did have Rage, and then also a bunch of clashes. I was able to kill the minions. Yeah, you can see I got 47 block, which is pretty good. After the collector, which was very easy for me to finish there, afterwards I didn't decide to pick up any boss relics, mostly because I felt that we were running out of time. None of the boss relics were amazing, and I was just worried that we're not going to finish in time, so I didn't want to sit down and try to debate which one I should have taken. In retrospect, though, we were offered the lizard tail, which would have revived us if we had died, which would have been a good thing to take on just for security. Now, the third floor generally was rough. There were a lot of spikers, and since we don't have much defense, we still had to attack them somehow, so we ended up losing a bunch of HP to a lot of the spikers. But ultimately, that's why we had a lot of max HP. That way we could have actually survived that. Right, at this event, I had to lose max HP. I couldn't just take a relic, or I couldn't take a curse, and I also couldn't take more skills since I would have to play them. So losing max HP there was the best choice, I believe. But the next shop, I decided to take Flex. Flex is generally useful if you're going for a traditional speedrunner deck. The best thing to do is to do Flex and then Whirlwind. But even for us, we only have one Whirlwind, but we mostly rely on our clashes, so Flex generally can be useful. It's also a zero-cost skill, so it doesn't really cost us to play it. Okay, so against the Spire growth, I did pretty much what the best turn would look like, which is to play a bunch of clashes, and then sort of rely on the Ornamental Fan and the little defense that we have left over to actually defend against the incoming, and then we're able to kill in 3 turns. Very nice. Yeah, and then here, same thing, Rage Offering, and then Thunderclap, and then Whirlwind to kill the frontliners, and then we can dual wield the Clash in the next turn to be able to kill. Right? Okay, and then I got a great relic, which is Shuriken, which means that every 3 attacks we now play, we get 4 block, as well as an extra strength. That's really good for us, since we are basically just playing more than 3 attacks every single turn. So then next we fought the Transient. An enemy like the Transient is relatively easy, especially with Ice Cream. So what I did here is I just saved up the energy until I had a turn with 15 energy, and I just played the Whirlwind, and that did 165 damage, which is pretty good. Next I had Maw. So the problem with Maw is that it has a lot of HP, so it just takes a while to bring it down, and in the meantime it does get fairly strong. Luckily, we were able to do about 134 damage in the first turn, and then after that we had the Ornamental Fan giving us some block while we really accumulated all of our clashes. Every time we play Clash, we sort of get more energy for next turn to potentially play Whirlwind. Before the final fight, I did upgrade the Flex. I also was offered to duplicate a card, and again, it was a time crunch. We're really getting close to the 20-minute mark. So I just quickly decided to duplicate an offering. I think in the end that was the right decision, because that way we can basically jumpstart our turns much faster. I should say the final time was a little under 20 minutes, so I just barely made that achievement, so it was very close. So the final fight was Dono and Deku. Now in the opening turn, I was able to play Rage twice by playing offerings a lot. Which did allow me to perfect that first turn, but then the rest of the combat I was not able to perfect. So that's where the high max HP came in very handy. We're able to take a bunch of damage without actually dying. But yeah, the rest of the combat is pretty much the same. I was able to play duplicate the clashes and just play those, and then occasionally have big whirlwind. So overall, this was a great combat. We did end up with, I believe, 31 HP left over, which was nice. In the end, our time was, I believe, 1926 or something, which is just underneath the 20-minute mark. So we just barely scraped by and did get that achievement, which is great. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.